Would you breathe with me, please? Take in a deep breath. And again. And one more time. Thank you, as always, for breathing with me. Helps get me centered as well. So, I wasn't originally scheduled to talk today. I know. Reverend Connie Phelps from our Center for Spiritual Living in Kenya was scheduled to come and tell us about her work and give a presentation. And she has a health challenge going on, so she wasn't able to make it. So fortunately, because I was on vacation mode. I was going to be here, but I was on vacation, non-talk writing mode. So fortunately, I have a few hundred talks. 21 years times 50. You do the math. Okay, so I figured that if I looked hard enough, I'd be able to find something that worked. So imagine my delight when I was going through all of my talks and I found a talk called Yahoo! Yeah, I know. It fits in with Stampede week. I was so excited. But before I tell you about Yahoo, I have a story to tell you. So there's this casino. I don't know anything about casinos, but this is what I understand. I wasn't there 2 days ago, and you can't prove it. Okay. It was my day off. Come on, be nice. Okay, so there's a craps table, right? I don't understand craps, but I think it has to do with rolling dice, right? So there are these two guy workers who are working at the craps table, and in comes this absolutely drop-dead gorgeous blonde, shapely, absolutely gorgeous, and she says, "I'd like to play on your table." And the guys were like, "Sure, that's fine." She says, "But I got to tell you something." She said, "I'm so superstitious that the very best way, and it just makes me feel so very lucky, is if I can shoot the dice with no clothes on." And the guys were like, "Well, all right, that's fine." So she strips down, and she takes the dice. And she's naked, right? And she throws the dice, and she jumps up and down, and she says, I won, Yahoo, I won. And she takes all the money, and she splits. And the first guy says to the other, "What'd she roll?" And the second guy says, "I don't know, I thought you were watching." So not only is that a cute story and a little bit naughty, because you know me, it actually ties in perfectly with my talk today, because in this case, the word Yahoo is also an acronym for a very cool spiritual truth, but one that we often forget, especially when life with a small L is showing up. And the acronym for Yahoo is: you always have other options. Yeah. So often when we are faced with a difficult situation or a difficult choice, we think to ourselves, there's nothing else for me to do. I don't see any way out of this. I guess this is just my lot in life, or the worst one ever, especially for people like us, and that is, I have no choice. And because we are looking at the situation straight on from our perspective at the time, those limiting beliefs seem to be the truth. And because our beliefs are what determine how we see the world, what goes on in the world, it does often appear that there's only one way to see things and to respond to things. But as we come to understand more about how the universe works and how we work with the universe, we come to recognize that really and truly, you always have other options always. So the key, you know what? I got to take this off. Where's the money? Show me the money. Yahoo! Okay. So, my new board president is just back there shaking his head. I can't believe she does what she does. Okay, so there's always other options, right? And the key is to actually recognize and to actually acknowledge that there are other options, because if we believe that we have no choice, then by our belief, we have no other choice. You understand what I'm saying? The master teacher, Jesus, taught us that. It is done unto you as you believe. However, as we train ourselves to believe that there are other options, to look for other options, even if we can't see them at the time, we open up channels for those options to come in and to make themselves known. In other words, we don't judge by what we can see. We don't judge by appearances. We judge by knowing that there is a field of limitless possibility and that we are in the midst of it. Yes? Yeah. Take a breath. Because when we are open to something new or something different or something that we hadn't thought about, and when we make room for it, then other options and ideas and possibilities come in. But if we're like this, they can't come in. Ernest Holmes put it this way: in actual practice, this means that we rearrange our thinking in such a way that we permit new ideas to flow in. The ideas, fears, and tensions that obstructed this flow are released. The stream flows free again. Yahoo. Yahoo. So this seems very nice in theory. Ernest Holmes puts things in such a nice way, right? But how do we actually do it? How do we actually rearrange our thinking, especially when the appearance is that things are stuck and that we're stuck? Well, I'm going to teach you a tool or a technique that I actually often use, and if you've taken classes with me before, you've actually heard this explanation, so forgive me. When I'm feeling stuck, when I'm feeling as if I don't have any other options, I have a technique where I actually raise my thoughts above the situation to see it from a higher perspective. Literally, in my mind's eye, I try to rise above it so that then I can see what other options or what other solutions might be available to me. Is this making sense to you? I'm going to actually give you the tool here. Because when I'm viewing things from my current state, I can't see anything else but what the situation is. But when I rise above it, even just in my own mind, I see it more clearly. And when I see it more clearly, I can see more options, and I can see other possibilities that might be there. So what's cool about this is that not only does it allow me to see things more clearly, but it expands my entire consciousness as well. Not only am I seeing things differently, but I'm seeing things like this. Yes, is this making sense to you? Yeah. So one of the basic truths of our teaching is that life, and now I'm talking about life with a capital L, works with us and creates with us our experiences according to our thoughts, right? Basic science of mind. What you think about comes about. And so those thoughts and those beliefs make up what we call our consciousness or our awareness or our awakeness, okay? So if I'm experiencing a feeling of being stuck or without options in a situation, it is because my consciousness has somehow attracted that situation to me. Ew. Ew. And the only way to change it is to change what I believe about it, which then brings about changes in how it shows up. Einstein said, "We cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them." We can't solve problems with the same consciousness that created the problem. So by rising above the situation, after I've whined and cried and thrown a temper tantrum, it shifts my consciousness to rise above it and to see it differently. It allows me to see other options. So here's a visualization for you to use to imagine what I'm talking about. Now imagine that you're walking down the street of a big city that you're unfamiliar with, okay? You with me? And from where you are, all you can see is your immediate surroundings, what's right in front of you. And because you're unfamiliar with the area, you may feel like you're lost, and you start to panic, and then you end up going in a direction that you didn't intend to go. However, if you were able to take an elevator to the top of a tall building and look down, you would be able to see not only where you were coming from, but where you are right now, and you would be able to see the different ways of getting to where you want to go. Are you with me? Is this making sense? It's very simple, and yet it is very effective, and I can tell you right now it is. When I first moved here, everybody explained to me that Calgary was a super easy city to get around because it was divided into 4 quadrants. Well, first of all, what the hell is a quadrant? But anyway, okay, I digress. And they're like, yeah, you know, the southwest and the northeast and blah, 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 blah. Oh, and also there's places where you're supposed to live and places where you're not supposed to live, but that's another story. So anyway, first 6 months I'm here, I've got no clue. And I'm telling all my friends in the States, if they're sending me something in the mail, I'm like, for sure put northwest or southeast on it, because otherwise these people don't know where they are. So I got here in April. In September, my sisters came to visit. And you know, they're coming in this September too, by the way. You'll have a chance to meet them. Anyway, one of the things that we did was go to the top of the Calgary Tower, which is a 360-degree view of the city. And I stood there, and I went, oh, Center Street, river. I got it. It made perfect sense to me, but I had to see it from a higher perspective. So would you like to try it? Do a little visualization? Okay, so close your eyes. Come on, play with me. Close your eyes. Think of a situation or a circumstance in your life where you feel as if you maybe only have one option, one choice. Allow yourself to actually feel in that situation right now. Now, in your mind's eye, imagine that you are walking into an elevator and riding it several stories high. Go as high as the Calgary Tower if you can. And now the doors of the elevator open, and step out of the elevator and look at your situation from that higher perspective. Can you see where you are? Can you see how you got to where you are? And can you, from that elevated viewpoint, see other ways of handling the situation? Okay, now open your eyes. Yahoo. You always have other options. You always have other options. So the next question is, how do we do this on an ongoing basis? It's fine when someone's instructing you to do it. That's really, really cool. But how does something like this become second nature? Well, believe it or not, in that situation, there really is only one option. And that is to practice. Practice the art of rising above. Practice the art of seeing things differently. Practice looking at things from a higher perspective. I do it all the time. Anybody who knows me, like, okay, let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's look at it like this. Because your current consciousness attracted your current situation. So in order to change your experience or your situation, you need to change your consciousness. And the best way that I know how to do that is through the art and science of affirmative prayer that we call spiritual mind treatment. It's a weird word for a very cool thing. One of the things that sets affirmative prayer different and makes it different than more traditional prayer. More traditional prayers often like I'm begging, I'm beseeching to something outside of myself, where spiritual mind treatment is done from a consciousness of unity and oneness with the divine, not from separation. So when we do spiritual mind treatment, we start out by affirming that God is all there is. God is all there is. And then we unify ourselves with it. You guys remember this from Foundations, right? Yep. And if you haven't taken Foundations, we're going to be doing it in October, so just sit tight. So just by doing those two steps, recognizing God is all there is, unifying yourself with it, just doing that is bound to raise your consciousness, raise your vibration, raise your perspective. Just by doing those first two steps of treatment. In fact, here's how Dr. Holmes put it. He said, the primary step in spiritual mind treatment is an awareness of God. The person who gets the best results is the one who has the most complete conviction of the divine presence and the deepest consciousness of spiritual harmony. The treatment must embody that inspiration, that feeling which comes alone from the source of all life. The treatment must touch the seamless robe of unity and wholeness with conviction and feeling. The higher the spiritual awareness, the more power will flow through it. Woohoo! There are other steps to treatment. There is the realization step, there's the thanksgiving step, and the release step. All of them very, very important because they consciously direct this power that I was just talking about. They direct it. But the real consciousness expanding steps come from recognizing God as all there is and unifying ourselves with it. In fact, I'm giving you lots of tools today. Here's something I want you to do this week. Okay? That's what you're going to do this week. I want you to experiment. Starting off each day as your feet hit the floor or as you wake up, I want you all to remember this. I want you to do the first two steps of treatment. Recognize God as all there is and unify yourself with it. It's very simple. Here's a way. Get out your phones. Get out your phones because you're going to want to do this. When you wake up, say something along the lines of, I now recognize the life force energy of the divine in everything because it is all there is. That means it is in me, through me, around me. I am one with it. Let's say that together. I now recognize the life force energy of the divine in everything because it is all there is. That means it is in me, through me, and around me. I am one with it. Okay, so I want you to just be with me for just a minute on this. Then, as you go about your day, after you've lifted your consciousness in this way, you may find that a few things are going to happen to you that are different than what had happened to you before. One, because you've consciously affirmed your unity with God, your connection with the source, you're going to find that you're going to be a lot more aware of what you say and what you think about. In other words, after you said God is all there is and I am one with God, you are not going to engage in harmful gossip or harmful self-talk or anything like this because you've just unified yourself with the divine. Then you're going to be like, do I really want to manifest what I'm about to say or what I'm about to think? In other words, just from this simple awareness is going to come a new way of showing up in the world. You are literally seeing things from a higher perspective. In fact, Emerson, my favorite quote of Emerson, prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view. So you've recognized God as all there is. You've unified yourself with God. That's prayer in itself. That's it right there. So then another thing is going to happen. Because you are open to a higher and more expansive point of view, you're going to find that you really do see other options and other solutions to whatever may be going on in your life, because you've opened yourself up to this field of limitless possibility. So even if you've been feeling stuck, you're not going to be stuck anymore because you're open to new ideas coming in. And the reason for that is with our human minds, what happens is that we usually respond to situations by what we did before. Oh, I recognize this feels familiar, and in that case I did this. You with me? Habitual thinking. But when we've unified ourselves with our source and recognize God as all there is, we find that we are not bound by precedent. We are not bound by what came before. Does that make sense? We are not bound by what came before. We are also not bound by what didn't come before. We are not bound by precedent. Principle is not bound by precedent. So we are able to see, therefore, we are able to be open to something absolutely new. Like the girl in the story in the beginning at the craps table. She's a religious scientist, you see. She started out her day recognizing God is all there is. She unified herself with that energy, and then she discovered a brand new option to increase her abundance and prosperity. And perhaps that isn't an option available to you. Even so, Yahoo, you always have other options. You just need to get yourself to a place where you can recognize it. Thank you. Thank you. Woo! Yowza! Not so bad for only finding out on Wednesday I was going to speak today. Okay. Oh, you guys are going for such a treat. This song that they're about to do. Just get out the hankies. Yeah. Be prepared. I'm telling you already.